Gretchen Evans.
So what inspired you to join the military?
I went to, after I graduated from high school, I went to college for a year, but I was financially on my own. And I found it difficult at first to go to school full time, try to work, and do all those kinds of things. I was raised in a very patriotic family. So I decided there's got to be an easier way to do this. I went down to the recruiting station. I didn't really have a preference on which service to join. And my intention was to do 4 years, get the educational benefits, learn a skill, save some money. Okay. Most people, kind of go in for those reasons. I walked into the very first door, and it was the Marine Corps door. And I'm a very small, petite woman. And I was about 2 steps into that door, and that big Marine came up to me and he says, "No, you're too small." I didn't want to mess with him. So I walked to the next door, and it was the Air Force. And I thought, oh, okay, great. I'll fly, airplanes. How fun will that be? And they brought out a measuring stick, and you have to be 5'4" to fly. And I was not. So at this point, I was getting a little discouraged. So I walked next door to the Navy, and they didn't care how big I was so much. And I was just about to sign the contract when I looked up at one of the posters of the typical Navy poster, the guy, standing like this with the hat. And I said, "Are you still wearing that uniform?" And they go, "Yeah." And I said, "No, I can't do bell bottoms anymore." Okay, I wore those in the 80s and 70s. I'm not wearing bell bottoms. So I gracefully walked out, and I went next door. It was the Army. And I said, "You got any problem with this package?" And the Army says, "No, we don't care how big you are. We just care how big your bite is." So I enlisted and honestly fell in love with, even in basic training, I knew I had made the right decision. I love the discipline. I love the esprit de corps. I like the camaraderie. And so what turned out to be initially a 4-year enlistment and getting out turned out to be a 27-year career, and would have been longer had I not got blown up.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your military journey?
Yeah, so I went into intelligence, and I was an intel analyst in the beginning, and that my role was to learn as much as I could about the military of what we called our opposing forces, the enemy, so that we could counter, whatever they had, the way that they deployed their units, so that we would know. So I studied other armies. And then I was recruited to become a counterintelligence agent, and went to language school and went to airborne school, and then joined and part of the Special Operations Command for, units, because they were looking for females that could speak languages and were willing to jump out of airplanes. So I did that for a really long time. And then once I made Sergeant Major, you become generic, okay? And your assignments are given to you, usually like generals, they get to pick who their sergeant major is going to be. So at the division level, when a general gets a division, that he or she gets to pick their sergeant major. So your assignments are nominative. So you just bounce back and forth. You might have a military police unit, you may have a signal unit, you may have a whatever, okay, because you become just a leader, just a sergeant major at that point. And your role is to be an advocate for the soldiers and to carry out the commander's intent. So it really doesn't matter what you were trained in.
So I talked to a lot of veterans, and they talk about the challenges they faced transitioning out of the military. And with your injury, how challenging was your transition?
Yeah, so I think for me it was crazy hard in the sense that I was injured. So, I had 27 years in. I could have retired at any time at that point, but we were in the middle of 2 wars. And the retirement never even crossed my mind at that point. But when I got injured, and my injuries were so severe that I couldn't remain on active duty. And so not only was I struggling with going from being a soldier for 27 years. Okay. That was my whole, since I was 19. So I went in at 19 and I was wounded at 46. That's, your whole adult life almost. But stacked on top of that were injuries. So, I was deaf and I had PTSD. I had a traumatic brain injury. And I'll be real honest with you, it was shocking to me how hard that transition was. I couldn't find anybody to hire me. Despite the fact that I had a degree and had all this leadership qualifications. Part of it was, I think the military, my resume didn't match what they saw as certain skills, and I wasn't good at it. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of help out there. There's so much more help now than there used to be. But also, they didn't want to hire me because of my injuries. It was a little bit of a bridge too far for them. How are we going to work with the person who's deaf? Okay, even though I read lips. And how are we going to work with the person with a traumatic brain injury? And I think they were a little bit afraid and a little bit misinformed about PTSD. I think it was a little scary for them. So, and rightfully so. I get it now. Back then, it was an unknown. People were thinking that we were going to cook off at any moment. Okay. So there was a lot of misinformation about people with PTSD. It's much better now, I think,
Yeah.
for warriors when they get out. But it was hard for me.
And I researched you a lot, and I saw the video from the 2022 ESPYs with the Pat Tillman Award. How does it feel that your mission is getting to a larger audience?
Yeah, so that's my passion and purpose now. So having, everybody gets kicked to the curb at least once in life, I believe. Regardless, everybody has something traumatic happen in their life. And whether or not you can survive that, I think depends on lots of things. One is that the realization that it's not forever, okay? That, this happens, whatever happens to you. And also that, like for me, I lost my hearing, and yes, my brain, I call my deck got shuffled, okay? And I had some other injuries. But once I got past oh my gosh, this has happened to me, and was able to recalibrate, I realized that those, I call it mixed abilities, disabilities, didn't define me or determine what I could accomplish. That was still in my own personal power to do the things that I wanted to do. And I couldn't use those things or shouldn't use those things as an excuse not to live my best life. And so through a series of failures and successes, I kind of came up with this I don't know what you call it, employing your grit and your resilience and your gumption. And once you learn how to use those skills, you're unstoppable. And so I just wanted to be able to share with others, yeah, I know how it feels to have the rug pulled out from underneath you. And I certainly know how it feels to feel like that your life now will never be the same. But those were, kind of mistruths I was telling myself. And that now my whole point in going out and speaking to audiences, and the whole premise behind Team Unbroken, is that those things don't define who we are or what we can accomplish. That those are just we have to find ways to work around our injuries or work to mitigate their symptoms, or so that we can be the same people that we were. And I'll say this, that rocket, it took my hearing, it took my brain, it took some skin off of me, but it didn't touch my soul. I was still the same person on the inside. In fact, I think I'm a better person after being blown up, because I think I became more empathetic and sympathetic. I had a second chance to look at life and things that are important in life. And it really did propel me into a whole different level of compassion and empathy and caring for others.
As a leader, how important is empathy?
Oh, yeah, it's one of the most important things because everybody's dealing with something. And if you as a leader can recognize that, that maybe that very morning, your soldier or your employee, woke up with a baby that had 103 temperature. So, they're a little distracted because they're worried about their child, or maybe they had a fight with their spouse, their significant other. Maybe they just had a flat tire on the way in or something, and a little bit of empathy goes a long way to saying, I know stuff happens in life. Okay. And a little bit, I always say a little space for grace, you know, let's just give a little space there. Not everybody's on their best day every day. And yet I, always try to say, I don't want to judge people on their best or their worst day. I want to take that what's in between, the core of that person, and saying this is the person and they have value. They're going to have really rock star days, and they're going to have days when they might be your worst employee of the day. Okay, but those shouldn't define how you treat them or what value they can bring to the organization. It's all those other days, the in between days, that really are the makeup of that person.
Can you tell me about Team Unbroken?
Yeah, Team Unbroken. Yeah, that's part of my heart, Team Unbroken. Team Unbroken came about really through a friend of mine, Eric Weinmayer. He was the first blind man to ever summit Mount Everest. And he sent me an email and he says, Gretchen, they're bringing back the world's toughest race. And I think you should put an adaptive team together and go compete. And so I said, okay, and so I got the application and I filled it out, and I had already recruited a couple of my combat buddies, and sent in our application, and I got a big fat no. Okay, really quick, no. And so I wrote again explaining, yes, we have some challenges, because I had one guy whose whole right side didn't work. And of course, I'm deaf. 3 of us had traumatic brain injuries. 1 of us was a very severe type 1 diabetic. There were some challenges. But again, we didn't think those kept us from being competitive, because we were already competitive athletes in of ourselves against able-bodied people. But I got about 5 no's, Michael. And then one day I got snarky. Okay. And I said, you got to bump me up to somebody who's the decision maker, because I was dealing with, a gatekeeper.
Right.
And finally I got on a call with the race director and Mark Burnett, who was the producer. And they both said this. They said, Gretchen, we want to say yes to Team Unbroken, but we're afraid. And I said, what are you afraid of? And they said, we're afraid you're going to get hurt. And I started laughing, because I said, we've already been hurt. Yeah. There's not one person on my team that hasn't been hurt. I said, all I'm asking is for you to put us on the same playing field with everybody else. And if we wash out on day 1, that's on us. But to not give us a chance, you've told a whole population of people, okay, that they can't do this. And I said, that's for us to decide what we can and can't do, not for you to decide. And so, Mark said, gosh, when you say it like that, Gretchen, it changes the whole, the way I think about this. So anyway, he invited us to come and compete in the world's toughest race. Amazon fell in love with Team Unbroken because we're scrappy. Okay. We didn't have the best equipment. We didn't have any big sponsors. But we got out there and we gave it our very best. And, when we were challenged with, running through the jungle in the middle of the night, and I was unable to communicate with my team. If I can't see your face, I can't communicate with you. So we worked around that, and they lanyarded me to somebody else so I didn't get lost in the jungle. And, we figured it out. And it was very innovative. And also it showed people like us who had life-altering injuries and illnesses that you can do hard things, that you can compete right alongside with completely able-bodied people. You just kind of have to figure out how to work around your injury or your illness. And so afterwards, about 6 months after they released it on Amazon Prime, and it's still showing, by the way, Mark Burnett sent me an email and he says, nobody even cares or knows who won the world's toughest race, but everybody knows who Team Unbroken is. And he asked me to make a promise to him that we would keep racing and that we would keep telling our story because he felt like it was changing people's lives.
Yeah. How has your physical health help your mental health?
Yeah. So, it's both and or. So, you become mentally tough. I always say this, people never know how strong they are until they have to be. Okay. And so, and that same thing about grit. You don't know. Everybody has the same amount of grit in their body, in their DNA. And it's not doled out, to special people. People in the military have to engage their grit probably more than the average person out there. But once you engage your grit, you never forget how that feels about. Once you face something that you think that you're not going to be able to survive or is going to be so hard and you persevere through it, then that gives you that confidence that you need for the rest of your life. So Team Unbroken, we train for all kinds. We like to do the craziest races we can find are the ones we enjoy the most. And so we have a couple coming up. One is called the Everest Challenge, where you pick a mountain and you climb it as many times as it takes to reach the height of Mount Everest, which is 29,000 feet. So we've signed up to climb Mount Stratton in Vermont in October, and we have to climb it 17 consecutive times in less than 30 hours to reach the height of Mount Everest. Yeah, we're a little excited about that one. That one's going to be tough. And then we're hiking the rim to rim for the Grand Canyon in November. And then we're doing another adventure race, a 6-day race in Costa Rica. That's like 400 miles. It'll be trekking and biking and whatever else they throw at us. And that's in February. And then we have a lot of speaking engagements where we just go maybe to companies or corporations and we just talk about what a real rope team looks like, what a team really looks like, and why we use the metaphor that we're tied together. And when one of us stumbles, the rest of us pick in so that person can stand back up and continue with the mission. And there's like this beautiful safety net in that you're not out there by yourself. Okay. And everybody has failures and you get kicked to the curb, but you're tied to these other people who are going to pick in for you until you can stand back up. And then I love the fact that it's reciprocal. So sometimes I'm the person that's on the ground. Okay. Hoping my team is holding the rope. And sometimes I'm holding the rope for somebody else. And I think that's important in life, that you not only receive, but that you're on the giving end of supporting other people. So it's really the whole premise behind Team Unbroken, is that build your rope team and go do amazing things together. Because it's so much more enjoyable. I hike a lot, and sometimes I'll climb a mountain, at sunrise, and I get to see this beautiful sunrise. And by myself, it's almost anticlimactical because, like, okay, it's pretty. But if I take 5 of my best friends with me and we climb this mountain, we get to see the sunrise together, it's 5 times more beautiful because I'm doing it with other people.
How does it feel when you accomplish these very tough races?
Yeah, we have some tough races. But the harder they are, I think that the better time we have. Okay, because it really reinforces the fact that we need to be mentally and as physically strong as we can be. And none of us are young. I'm in my 60s and Dan's in his 60s, and a couple of us people on my team are in their 40s. We're not young. And we get out there and we do it. And it just, like I said, we always learn something in the process. Not only just the training, but in the competition of itself. Okay. When one of us is having a bad time, you got your other team members in there, and everybody, we always ask who's going to be the weakest link. Well, we don't ever know. It changes from race to race. Somebody could just not be feeling well that day, or they're recovering from an injury or whatever it is, but that's okay because we got you. That's the whole point in having a team, is that you don't always have to, carry the load by yourself.
I saw that you're a big supporter of service dogs, uh, and you've done quite a lot for that. What have you learned from your own service dog?
Oh, my service dog, Rusty, he's amazing. Um, I've learned what true devotion and loyalty looks like. Okay, because no matter what kind of day I'm having, Rusty's always there doing his job, which is to alert me to sounds to keep me safe. He does nightmare interruption when I have nightmares. If he feels like I'm, sad or agitated or having a bad day, he's right by my side. And, he's just the epitome of what the perfect friend would look like. He's always happy to see me. If I walk out without him, I don't leave him very often. If I have to go someplace and not take him with me, he's right there at the door and his tail is wagging. It's like he never has a bad day. Okay. So what I've learned from Rusty is that, I need to be that kind of friend to other people, to be there for them and try not to let bad days sidetrack me. The value of a service dog is that, in the days when maybe you're trying to find meaning in life and you're struggling with, dark thoughts from your traumas, I can look down in that face and those beautiful brown eyes and that tail wagging, it makes you think there's no way I'm checking out of this life. Okay. Because first of all, this dog's depending on me. Okay. I take care of him and he takes care of me. And I think they bring great value into anybody's life, a
Yeah.
service dog. Yeah. I'm a big champion for people who need and want a service dog to have one.
Yeah, I've interviewed Paws for Purple Hearts before, and just seeing these dogs in action is so amazing at what they do for
Yeah. Yeah.
these
They're
veterans.
amazing.
What are some of the things that motivate you?
The thing that motivates me the most is seeing people reach their potential. Okay. I love to run marathons with first time runners because there is nothing so beautiful than to see them cross that finish line, and whether they're crying or smiling or high-fiving or whatever it is, because they put in so much effort into it. And there was always a time along the way when they thought they would never accomplish it. And then they actually cross that finish line. And, it's like getting the job they never thought they would get, or, salvaging a relationship that they thought was lost or something like that. So what motivates me is to be a part of helping people live their best life. And that's where I get the most joy out of.
You know, with helping others, what do you do to take time for yourself for your own mental health?
Yeah, so I take plenty of time for myself because I know that for me to be involved in people's lives, I've got to be at my best. So I get up every morning. I kind of have a little bit of a ritual. I get up in the morning. I have a little bit of quiet time with Rusty. I always take him for a walk, usually before the sun's up. We're in Texas now and it's hot, so first, we're out before the sun gets up. And then I do what I need to do for whatever I'm training for at the time. I try to get my training in the morning, and I protect that time because I know I need that time. So, I ran 11 miles this morning.
Oh,
Okay. So
wow.
that's done. And Rusty's had a walk. That's done. Um, and then, I try not to overpack my days, so that I don't feel stretched.
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading and thinking and journaling, and I check on my rope team every day. And with Team Unbroken, I talk to them most every day. So, those are all positive things that keep me whole and keep me accountable. And so that I'm my best self. Okay. And I try to catch myself if I get overly tired or overly committed. My husband's really good about balance. He'll look at my schedule and say, no more this month. Okay. You have enough days where you're traveling or you're speaking or whatever you're doing, no more this month. And so we have a nice balance where It's my, if my heart tells me always to say yes. Okay. When somebody asks me to do something, to say yes, but there has to be a reasonable side to that, because if I say yes, I want to be at my best. And so sometimes I have to say no or not yet. Okay. So I prefer not yet. Let's, wait, and I'll be able to do this later. So self-care is really important.
And you said your husband, who's also retired military, how was it to have someone right next to you that's going through similar things?
Yeah. So there's a positive side to that because he gets it. Okay. I mean, he is a combat veteran himself and he served for 25 years. And so there's like this secret language that we have when, there's like, certain days that are maybe sad for us, like a day when we lost one of our really good friends, or days that are very, can be triggering for us. And we know what those days are. And we know when to be extra tender with that person as they're kind of navigating that day. We also, speak in a military language. It's like people say it's like a foreign language. Okay. And so that's nice that I don't have to explain acronyms to him that he gets him. And also we're kind of wired the same way. We get up and the first thing we do is when we make our bed. Okay. And we preloaded what we need for the day the night before. So there's no, running around the last minute. Not everybody is wired like that, nor do they need to be. But for us, that makes us peaceful to have everything, is taken care of as we can, so that we're prepared for the unknown,
Yeah.
just in case we have to shift. Okay, and then it's not such a big shift because we've got everything else taken care of. So I think it has great benefits of marrying another military member because, like I said, they get it. Okay, absolutely get it.